As we are here at the Peterson Event Center for the Jeff Capel Show, and what a week this was, Jeff. You know, I don't know if you sat back, you probably thought about this, that your team in the span of a couple of games beat two coaches that have combined for about 2,100 career wins.
You know, I didn't think about it like that. I certainly am very aware of what those two men mean to college basketball, have meant, and continue to mean. And, fortunately for me, I have a relationship with both of them. You know, obviously playing for Coach and then getting to know Coach Boeheim through USA Basketball and spending some time. In 2014, I'll never forget this. I was on a plane with Coach and with Coach Boeheim traveling from Colorado Springs to Las Vegas. And we were getting ready to get ready for the World Cup, for the World Championships. And I just sat there and I listened to him for about an hour. And when we landed, I called my wife and I said to her, I said, I just sat and listened to these guys, and they'll have over 2,000 wins between them when it's all said and done. And I said, and they're polar opposite. And it was a great example as a young coach of you have to do it your way. Like, you have to be comfortable with who you are. And Coach Boeheim are very, very comfortable. It wouldn't work if Coach Boeheim tried to do it like Coach K, or if Coach tried to do it like Coach Boeheim. But it was pretty incredible.
Is there anything you remember specifically about what was that you could share about what was said that really blew you away?
Well, I mean, they were just kind of reminiscing about their friendship when it started. You know, they did USA Basketball together like in the 70s, early 80s. And so their relationship goes back that far. They've been really good friends since then. And so they were just reminiscing about that. They were talking about the game currently at that time, as it stood, and just, some of the things that maybe could be better, or some of the things they missed about, the older days, so to speak. But just their knowledge, probably more important, their love of basketball and coaching and teaching and helping guys. That's what stood out probably most to me.
Now, that's the time you wish you were on the flight to Australia.
Yeah,
so you
I know.
could get a lot more time just
No
to
question.
hear it. How about Justin Champagnie? Man, when did you know for sure that he was coming back, and did you expect that there would be some easing in, or did you think that he'd be able to just hit the ground running?
Yeah, we knew he had started doing some stuff in practice, but it was no contact. But you'd see him on the sideline. Afterwards we were able to do some stuff with him, no contact. And you'd see him moving, you'd see him jumping up and dunking. And you thought, wow, he looks really good. It was on a Saturday, I remember, was when he got cleared for contact. And, he was out there, he was practicing, he wasn't hesitant. In fact, he had a tip dunk similar to the one he had against Syracuse in that practice. And that's when you knew. But still, you worried about conditioning. He hadn't played since December 16th, in a game. And I didn't expect the numbers that he's done the last two games.
To the uneducated, it appears that he is never out of control. He always seems to be in control of what he's doing, and the really good players seem to have that. Why is that?
Yeah, he's really unique from the standpoint of it's like he's attracted to the ball, or the ball is attracted to him. He just, he has a knack for getting the ball. And then, he can make these shots that seem very difficult. He makes them at a really high percentage, like this stuff around the basket, and even out to about 12 to 15 feet. And he'll shoot them with, either hand. And, there are shots that for most people, they're bad shots. But for him, he has a way of making them. And then if he can continue to add, in the last game, he was able to make some threes against Duke. He made 4. If that's something that he can become consistent with, then that takes his game to a different level.
Along that line, what is something that he does that doesn't show up in stats that's very impressive?
I'd say one area where he's gotten better is leadership. When we played at Syracuse, I mean, he was so helpful to those guys, especially William Jeffers. Just talking to him, telling him how to attack the zone. Same thing with Femi. At halftime, after I talked, like he got the marker and was up there writing stuff on the board and showing them different things. So I think in that area, I think he's done a really good job, especially with our young guys.
Well, he hasn't done it alone. And as the show continues, I want to talk about some of the other guys that have been a part of that. And one of them is coming up next, especially in that Syracuse game.
Yep.
Big from three was Ithiel Horton. The transfer from Delaware is going to join us as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. Jeff Capel Show here in the Pitt Panthers Radio Network, and we aim to please and to cater to our next guest. Ithiel Horton joins us, the red shirt from New Jersey. And Ithiel, what have these last couple of games been like as a team?
As a team, I think it's been really fun. These past couple of games we've been winning. We've been playing with a cohesiveness, and we've been playing with an energy and sense of purpose, like never before. So it's been really fun, to play these last few games with this team.
How much do you think the game at Northwestern and the game at Syracuse and the times you've had to come back, that's built upon itself to where you guys have confidence in those tough situations?
We definitely know as a team that we're a fighting team and that we're resilient, and we can face any challenge and obstacle that comes in our way. So I think those are the last two games.
When you're facing a zone as a team, specifically against Syracuse, do you go into that game knowing like, okay, I've got to look for my shot, or this is an opportunity for me?
Yeah, I go in every game like that, but Syracuse was definitely different since they were going to be in the zone, and I knew that, the only way I obviously didn't ever get out the zone, but the only way to beat this team was to shoot and get it in the middle. And Coach Capel was pretty much, that whole week was telling me that this is an opportunity for me to have a big game. So obviously that definitely helped boost my confidence going in there too.
You're 5 of 10. And you mentioned confidence. What does a game like that do for a younger player?
It kind of just proves that I can do it. I glad that we can do it as well. And I think every little game is like that.
It's interesting, Ithiel, because I know we've talked to you before, and you've mentioned confidence. Has that been a thing your whole life where you kind of struggled from a confidence standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I never really knew what it was, but ever since, playing basketball ever since I was young and up till now, it's still here with me, this confidence. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to click or break, but I know when that breakthrough comes, it's going to be magnificent because I got a great staff around me, great coaching staff, great players, and great administration around me that believes in me. So I'm going to keep pushing, and we're going to break that confidence thing.
Have you ever thought about what basketball? Maybe in this year is a good year for it. What basketball, Ithiel, has meant to you?
It means a lot to me. Basketball is really my vehicle. Taking me places around the world, meeting new people, and creating new friendships and relationships. So it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me.
Well, Ithiel, best of luck rest of the way. Congratulations on the wins. One final question is just from your standpoint, like, how do you make sure when the team is talking that you haven't thought that you've arrived, that you still got a long way to go as a group for the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, just looking at the rest of the games that we have to play and the rest of the caliber that's in this conference. The work is never done, and our coaching staff does a great job of reiterating that message to us. The work is never done. We got to keep going. We got to be hungry for more.
Yeah, Coach smiled at that. Hey, Ithiel, good luck. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hatham. All right, Coach. See you tomorrow.
All right. Wow, mister. Up next, this guy was a stat filler in the 90s for Pitt basketball. We'll meet him as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
We got to be smart. We have to have poise. What? 1, 2, 3, what?
And welcome back to the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. You know, there aren't many Pitt players that have stats like our next guest. 111 games, 1,342 points, 552 assists, 360 rebounds, and 257 steals. Now that is filling up a stat sheet.
Big time.
He is also another New Yorker to star here at the Pitt with the Pitt program. Guard Jerry McCullough joins us. Jerry, how are you?
All good. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good, man.
Can y'all hear me?
Good.
Okay.
How much were you know, I mentioned those stats. Was that an emphasis of yours to make sure that you were all around? How were you able to get into so many categories there?
Just giving it all I had. I just went out there and played to win, and I want that rock too. So if I had to go rebound to get it, pick somebody's pocket to get it, run somebody over, you know, I just had to get that ball.
I love that comment. Jerry, what are you doing now?
Now, still in the game, teaching, coaching, but down on the middle school level, with the young kids, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, you know, helping out. I still go in, watch, you know, New York City basketball. So it's, you know, it's still on the upward swing, you know. Just still involved with the game, teaching and coaching. I don't think I can do anything else other than that.
Jerry, what do you tell kids at that age, at 3rd, 4th, 5th grade?
First, I tell them where the wing at, like positioning, because they just all run, gravitate to the ball. Then I just try to tell them to, you know, have fun, space out, relax. You know, everything ain't TV. You know, the little things, just communication, and they get it too. That's the wild part about it. Like, even though they running around crazy, once you stop and talk to them, they get it, and they try to settle in a little bit and pass the rock to each other and don't try to run and take it out of each other's hands, you know.
So what was the reason that you chose Pitt? Like, what was it about Pitt when you were being recruited out of New York that, you know, you were attracted to about this place?
One, I guess, was the city. Being that I saw that skyline, it took me up to Mount Washington, and, you know, I looked, and it gave me a little bit of comfort, you know, like I'm back home, you know, New York City, big skyline. So that was one thing that I was like, okay, I'm not going way out of my element being from Harlem. And then 2, I had some New York City folks that was going to come along with me, like John Sarandra. He was there. He coached at Talent Time High School, Red Orchard, and them. Then Eric Mobley, he was there, and Orlando Antigua. Mm-hmm. So those was the first 3 that kind of, you know, got me there. And they had the tradition of getting to that tournament every year, you know, Jerome Lane, Charles Smith. So I felt, you know, everything was there to you know, have us to be successful. And I could drive home, so it was only 6 hours. It was a little bit further away.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned your love for the game. You took from your career here. I looked up your first team. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was the New Hampshire Thunderloons?
Thunderloons.
What league was that in? Like, how much do you get paid to play in a league like for that team?
I think we had to pay them to pay, because them checks was real light. I mean, we had to come out of our pockets a little bit. I wouldn't say more than $200-300 a week or something like that, but they gave us the hotels. It was out, you know, out of nowhere, but I had fun. That was my first kind of professional professional start. I think Paul Faison, and I forgot my man's name from the Celtics that way. He kind of recommended me to him because he watched us play a little bit. And that was my first kind of professional start.
A friend of yours, friend of mine, Ronald Ramon, told me to ask you about the Dominican Republic. Your experience?
Fantasy Island. That's what that is there. Now, that was an experience above all experiences out there. Like, you on an island. It's a different type of basketball, too. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't understand what a foul is. You know, so
for a New York guy, that should fit right in.
And they talking so much trash out in DR, and I couldn't understand anything. But you know when someone's talking trash to you.
Yeah.
So they in your face. It was a real rowdy, fun atmosphere. But they respect you when you put up and show up. You gotta be tough to play out there.
Jerry,
that's for real.
You played all around the world. What have you learned about the world through basketball?
Dad, I learned so many styles. Like the way everyone was so much raving about, I guess, the San Antonio Spurs when Manu and all of them came over. That was like an everyday thing out in Europe. Like I'm like, really, y'all not up on this style of basketball? Like, you know, we used to practice that way. Like we couldn't dribble the ball. We'll play 6-on-6, bigs against smalls, just pass, and nobody can dribble. That was kind of like our warm-up. So all that movement, familiarity with your team, that was it. And I think I heard on the radio talking about attention to detail. That was one of my Greek coaches, like running the same play. If my feet wasn't catty-cornered in the corner when I was supposed to hit the corner for the play to go when they run the horns, he would stop it, and we have to do it over. He cursing and yelling, you know, the Serbian style. Like, they were stickler to details because they swore it worked, you know. Like, and they had their way. So I learned so many different styles of play, you know, from the Dominican Republic style of play to the Serbian to Russian, you know. And then, you know, the Italian league I like the best, though.
It's probably good sometimes not to know what they're saying to you.
Yeah, especially my Serbian.
Last question for you, Jerry. Have you been able to watch this year's team? What are your thoughts on the way this program is trending?
I'm liking the way it's going. To be honest, like I saw the blowout when beat Northeastern, and then I watched bits of Miami, and then the last game against Duke. Duke scared me a little bit because it was, you know, starting to give it away a little bit at the end, like being too happy instead of, you know, kill mode. But I like the way it's going. I like the twin, right? The way he's starting to step up. You know, I'm seeing a little motion, like leadership. I'm liking the way it's going.
Well, Jerry, yeah, I love how, of course, you mentioned the Brooklyn kid first. I get it. But he's also been pretty good. Hey, Jerry, hey, congrats on teaching the young kids because they need guidance. They need someone that's been there and done that. And best of luck in your career and what you're doing for these young kids.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, good luck to Pitt. Good luck, Jeff.
Appreciate it, man.
He's one of the top play-by-play announcers in the country, and he joins us next on the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. We're joined by head coach Jeff Capel. My name is Jeff Hathorn, and I want to ask you, Coach, a couple of wins in a row over big programs. What do you tell your team about not thinking, like I asked Ithiel, like not thinking that they've arrived and they still need to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, that's the hard part when you're dealing with young people. And we had a long talk about that in a really spirited practice. About that, it's interesting. When I worked at Duke for 7 years, Coach K, would always, like when we lost, he had this stat of what the team that had just beaten us, what their record is the next game. And about 85 to 90% of the time they lost. And it was normally because you couldn't get off of that high. You couldn't get off of it. And, we used to call it, the Duke hangover. And, for us, because we played well, we fought. Obviously, anytime you beat a program like that, especially with Coach K still there, it's big time. And then you mentioned Syracuse, who's our biggest rival here, and then Duke. And then we had a day off. And so from Tuesday night, I told them from about 11:05 Tuesday night until today, everyone's been telling you how good you are, and you started to hear this buzz, and it should be there. To be honest with you, like I get it, like what Audice has done, what Justin is doing, what Xavier is doing, leading the league in assists, like that should but like we have to move on, we have to flush it, and we can't allow that win or those wins to affect. Like you have to win every day, and you have to attack every day, and that's what the really good programs understand how to do. They're never satisfied. Like you're constantly trying to win.
He called the game against Duke, and he's joining us now. He's one of the best in the business, and what I really appreciate about Dan Schulman is that he's a pro at what he does, and he's taken time out of his busy schedule to join us. Dan, how are you?
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Coach. How are you?
Good, man. Doing good.
What were your impressions?
A very nice win, and enjoyed calling your game. It's been a long time since I called a Pitt game.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it, and glad you were able to be on it. Glad we had the A-team.
Yeah, Jeff was trying to make sure you were entertained, and along with the rest of us. Dan, what are your impressions of you mentioned it's been a little while, of where this Pitt program has come?
Well, and I won't say anything now that I didn't say on the air. I mean, the job that you've done, Jeff, in the last 2.5 years is unbelievable. And I'd seen you, see you guys on tape a little bit, try to watch as many schools as you can. There are so many programs out there, obviously. But, I mean, these guys are – the first thing you think of is, wow, they play hard. And as you remember, Jeff, the first question I asked you in our Zoom call was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pleased were you with the effort in the Syracuse game? And you said 9.8, and I've never heard a coach be that happy with a team before ever. So I know you like their effort and their energy, and then they came out and they played hard again against Duke. But it's not just that they play. Like, if we only focus on how hard they play, I think we're short-selling them a little bit on how good some of these guys are. I mean, Champagny obviously had an incredible game, and he's a unique player. And Xavier Johnson, Tony, bringing in Horton, a guy who can shoot. I mean, you got some good players too. I imagine the fan base, on a virtual level, is very excited about this. And whenever we get to having fans back in the building again, I think the Pete will be hopping again before long. Back in the Big East days, I was at the Pete all the time. Like back in Ben Howell and Jamie Dixon, and you'll see Jeff, because you got them going. That zoo is no joke, man. I mean, you're gonna have a good time. So.
Yeah.
Where you would sit, you're in the throng of the crowds, and you have them all over you, especially depending on who you're sitting next to.
So first thing about the zoo, you're exactly right. In most arenas, the students, for whatever reason, seem to be opposite us or at the ends of the courts. But the zoo, and I haven't been there in a few years, they're still right behind our broadcast location, right? Is that where they are?
We've switched it now.
The court.
Oh, they did switch it now?
Yes.
Okay. So that's right. I know they switched it. And I think TV had something to do with it, because we always said there's such a great student section. You want the cameras facing the zoo.
Yeah.
You don't want the cameras facing the private boxes on the other side. they were, as you said, literally right behind us when we were broadcasting. And I used to take one of my sons with me to games every now and again. But Pittsburgh was on that wasn't happening. It was just too wild. My kid was like 8. My kid was like 9, 10 years old, and I'd say, I can take him to Michigan State. I can't take him to Pitt. So, but because they're that wild. But it is different this year. It just everybody's going through different things, obviously.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Well, Dan, congrats. We enjoy listening to you, especially when you're doing more Pitt games, because that means where the program is at, and we really appreciate your time here tonight.
Anytime. Keep it going. I hope to do more.
Appreciate
Coach,
it.
the best to you and your family. You guys stay well, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Dan. Thanks so much.
All right. Panthers were to play at Boston College. However, that game has been postponed, and instead the Panthers will play at Wake Forest Saturday. But it seems like they did it at least in enough time where you had opportunity. Both teams had opportunity to prepare. In our last minute here, Wake's a team in transition, but they had a couple of guys fill it up yesterday in Musius and Williamson.
Yeah, they're a lot better than their record, and that's something I'm trying to get our guys to understand. If you look at their record in the conference, Wake probably has been a team, certainly in the ACC, that has been devastated and ravaged by COVID more than anyone. I think the whole month of December, they were out, at least the first 20, 25 days. And so their record doesn't indicate, like, they're getting better. They led Virginia. They were right there with Louisville. They were right there with Virginia Tech, right there against Duke, right there against North Carolina. We can't let them get right against us. And so we have to be hungry, like you talked about earlier, and go up there and fight and be together and do the things we have to do to win.
Tip is still at 8 o'clock, 7:30 pregame with Curtis Aiken and Bill Hillgrove. Our thanks to our guests, Jerry McCullough, to Dan Schulman, to Ithiel Horton. Thanks to our producers, Cale Berger and Amanda Sile, and to Matt Plisga. Jeff, best of luck.
Appreciate
Good luck on the road. Panthers 8-2 on the season. We'll see you next week on the Jeff Capel Show.
We gotta be smart. We have to have poise. What? 1, 2, 3.